What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC Vegas 73. We have the card of the year, Mackenzie Dern going against Angela Hill. We are here on a Tuesday. We got Uncle Weezy in the building. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to UFC Vegas 73, Angela Hill, Mackenzie Dern?
Yeah, when you work 15 out of 16 straight weeks, you want to end it up this way with this kind of a card so that you can, if you don't feel bad if you completely half-ass everything, because this is a flaming dumpster on fire rolling down a street downhill, with probably going to be some damage whenever it hits what it's supposed to hit at the end of this hill. It's bad, dude. We got Ilir Latifi on this card, a gigantic head and puts on some of the most boring fights ever. We've got, Temba Garimbo versus Takashi Sato. We've got Victoria Leonardo on this card. Hooper versus Fiore. It's not great, but we always say, Brady, if we find a couple spots here, if we find a way to get plus a few units here, it's going to be one of our favorite cards of the year, and we'll probably be laughing our asses off if we do cash on this card. So let's put the work in like we do every damn week here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's find the reads. Let's find the mispriced lines, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks here.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. We'll see how many bets I end up having. I have one right now, but there's a couple spots I am looking at. I feel like the money lines on this card are going to be pretty tough. I feel like a lot of these fights could go either way. We have a lot of very closely lined fights. So kind of a tough card, but we'll see if we can find some spots talking it over. Weezy, let's quickly recap UFC Charlotte for last week. I believe you had a winning night, as did I, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I wound up 2.05 units, 58% return on investment. I had barely any bets, only 3.5 units in bets. So to be up 2.05 units, I'm really happy with that. The big loss for me was 1 unit on the Daniel Rodriguez money line. Love that read. Consider doubling down because I missed the line. I got it at plus 205. It ran all the way to plus 265. So glad I didn't double down because Ian Gary went through him like a hot knife through butter. But the good bets, I had 1 unit on the over 2.5 rounds for Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman at plus 120. That cashed. I had a 3-leg super chalky parlay, which came out to minus 103. Williams to win, Ulberg to win, and the main event not to start round 3. That cashed for 0.97 units. And I also, the last bet that I added was Douglas Silva de Andrade to win by decision at plus 450. Got it for a quarter unit. So that wound me up 1.12 units, up 2.05 units on the day. I did lose a quarter unit on Jairzinho Rozenstruik to win by first round KO at plus 1200. But what really hurt Brady was this week's greasy 4-legger. Over 1.5 rounds in the Williams fight. Check. Fight doesn't go to decision for Means versus Morono. Check. Fight doesn't start round 3 for the main event. Check. Ji Yeon Kim by decision. Wow. Did you see her coming out wearing those knee sleeves? She looked like a 43-year-old cowboy Bob Orton. She had like those massive knee sleeves that went. I'm like, what the hell is she doing with those things on? And yeah, she grapples the whole fight against Mandy Bohm, who that was her only chance. She comes out saying that she has a completely torn ACL, and she missed her grandmother's funeral, and she had 2 points taken, one for a kick in the chest that happened 5 seconds after the round was over, and another one for an illegal knee to the head, which then Mandy Bohm got the Aljamain Sterling Award for acting in an MMA cage and wound up getting a split decision win there. Wow. How the hell, Brady, is Mandy Bohm not cut? We're cutting Jessica Rose Clark. Okay. We're cutting Ji Yeon Kim. Okay. It's probably overdue.
Yes.
But Mandy Bohm remains on the roster. How the hell does that happen, dude? What did we do to deserve this? Do we need to go directly to Dana White? Do we need to go over his head? Does somebody need to go into the Oval Office and wake Joe Biden up from his 5-hour nap this afternoon and tell him that we need Mandy Bohm cut from the UFC? Because This is ridiculous. She should not get another fight. She should be absolutely done with this organization. I don't want to see Mandy Bohm in the cage ever again. Let's cut Mandy Bohm. Let's one in the chat for if you want Mandy Bohm if you want her to continue in the UFC, or put 2 in there if you want her cut. I want to know what the Stat Diggers audience thinks of this right now, Brady. I really hope that people don't want to see Mandy Bohm. We got 2 from Pub Sports Radio right there. Dixon Cider puts a 1. Are you kidding me? That better be because you want to bet against her, dude. Victor de Jesus, that's my guy. He puts a 1. Oh, God. Hashtag cut Bohm. Let's get her the hell out of here, man. She's terrible, dude. Absolutely terrible. Mushroom is with me. He's put 4 2s in the chat. But, yeah, man. Hey, I'll take it, man. Two units. Let's keep it rolling here, and then let's really enjoy this week off after having one more winning carb here before the break week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't want to break down another Mandy Bohm fight. I really don't want to do it. I mean, it was rough. It was rough breaking down Jiang Kim, Mandy Bohm, but luckily I didn't have anything on that fight. I didn't have any bets as well, Weezy. I had my only straight bet of the night was Douglas Silva de Andrade, half a unit plus 135. And then I had the split decision prop, and I'm going to stop betting these because I think that was like the definition of a split decision. Plus 450 for a quarter unit. I could have swore that was going to be a split. Like I was looking on Twitter, and like the majority of people thought that Stamen won the fight. And we couldn't even get a split on that, so that one hurt. And then other wins were I had the Morono Tim Means fight doesn't go the distance, half a unit plus 110. And then my favorite bet of the night was Morono inside the distance, half a unit plus 215. And then I had 2 very, very chalky parlays that I thought both would hit. Went 1-1 on these. I had the fight won't start round 3 parlayed with the Olberg Pateria fight doesn't go. 1.5 unit on that. So that hit. And then the one that lost was, and this hurt as well, Rosenstruck, Almeida fight won't start round 3, parlayed with Anthony Smith. Johnny Walker fight doesn't go to decision. Not sure why Johnny Walker didn't finish Anthony Smith. It looked like Anthony Smith was looking for a way out. And Johnny Walker was probably a combination or 2 away from Keith Peterson stepping in. Like Peterson was waiting to stop that fight, but Walker let him off the hook. So went 1-1 of those chalky parlays, but up about a unit 0.16. But I felt like it could have been a much, much better night if that split would have hit and if Walker would have showed any sense of urgency whatsoever. But I'll take it. It was a tough card, and I think this card's kind of tough as well. I don't see myself having much action on this one, but Weezy, we'll talk about it here. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. Thank you all so much for hanging out on a Tuesday. If you guys have not already, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We got Victor de Jesus, first one in the chat. We got Mushroom in here. We got Jeff. We got Tim in the chat. We got Rex. We got the Money Liner. We got our guy Preston hanging out. We got GMC in the chat as well. We got Justin hanging out in the chat. MB. We got Dixon. We got Subhuman. We got Kyle Marley. What is up, Marley? Hanging out as well. What is up, everybody? All right, Weezy. I say we get into the card of the year. I was doing my breakdown on Friday for this card, and I was breaking the card down, and I was struggling, man. I was like, my goodness, are we going to get a good fight to talk about? Like these prelims are rough. I think the main card's like solid, but a lot of these prelims are just very low level fights that can go either way. And this is one of them. We got Takashi Sato going against Themba Garimbo. We got Takashi Sato, 32 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Garimbo, he is 32 years old, 6 foot with a 76.5-inch reach. Same age. We got Garimbo 2-inch height advantage and a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Takashi Sato is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Bilal Muhammad. Knockout win against Jason Witt. Submission loss to Miguel Baeza. A decision loss to Gunnar Nelson and a knockout loss to Brian Battle. As far as Garimbo, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He did make his debut on somewhat short notice against AJ Fletcher. Lost that fight by submission in the second round after a club and sub there. So yeah, striker versus grappler match. We got to straight up pick him here. It all comes down to whether Garimbo gets this fight down to the mat or Sato knocks out Garimbo here. I wasn't too high on Garimbo when he came into the UFC against Fletcher. He came in as a pretty big dog, and I think Fletcher was your ass shaming of the week that week, Weezy. And I know I was on Fletcher inside the distance, but Grimbo came out in the first round, was able to hit a takedown, was able to, I think, either take or almost take Fletcher's back. He looked solid a little bit early, and then he got reversed. He got sloppy on the mat. That's kind of his game. He makes a lot of mistakes on the mat. I don't know if that's going to be a big problem here. I don't think he's going to want to strike with Sato. I think he's going to want to take down Takashi Sato. Sato does not have great takedown defense, does not have great submission defense. Striker versus grappler. I guess I lean with Grimbo to get the takedowns, but this is such a low-level fight that it's hard to have any confidence one way or another. Straight pick 'em. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be confident either way, Brady. You know, both of these guys have really got massive holes in their game. You know, with Sato, you've got a guy who's got the overall and UFC experience advantages. He's got 7 more pro fights, 25 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 5 more UFC fights and almost 40 more minutes in the octagon. He also has the power advantage for sure here, as he's got 2 UFC knockdowns and 2 wins by KO in the UFC. His straight left hand is nasty, and he melted Witt and Sanders with that technique. Sato has definitely fought the much better level of competition overall and in the UFC. But with Themba Gorimbo, he's a little bit younger, 6 months, but he's 2 inches taller. He's got a 3.5-inch reach advantage. So there's some nice measurables advantages here for Themba. There really isn't much of a sample size of UFC stats for Themba, but he's a tricky submission grappler. He's awkward. He's dangerous on the feet because he's long. He mainly uses his awkward striking to kind of like explode in and set up body locks and try to get fights to the ground. He's shown the ability to wrestle and win minutes on the ground. And against an opponent like Sato, who's lost 91% of the control time positions that he's been in and shown only 60% takedown defense, this could be an area where Themba can win minutes in this matchup. So I don't think either of these guys is any good at all, Brady. The mere thought of putting my money on either of these guys is pretty terrifying. With Sato, you've got a great straight left hand, but if he doesn't land that left hand, he's completely useless. Completely. And then with and he's really low volume too, Sato. He just doesn't do much on the feet. He's waiting to land that big left hand, and outside of that, when he hasn't landed that in a UFC fight, he's completely worthless. So he's KO dependent, you know, but Gorimbo has some of the worst technical striking I've ever seen. But I think I can count on him to wrestle here and make Takashi fight a fight he isn't comfortable with. So, I mean, I guess I got to lean Themba Gorimbo here and err on the side of the younger, more complete fighter that goes to the grappling, which I know Takashi struggles with. So, yeah, I'm picking Gorimbo here. But, man, the thought of having money on either one of these guys and then them not, you know, coming through, it's one of those ones that'll have you looking in the mirror late night saying, what the hell did I just do?
Yeah, I think I'd be more inclined to bet on the Grimbo money line because I think he has a really clear path to victory. Like Sato's ground game is atrocious. If I could trust Grimbo's cardio, I don't know if it was like because it was short notice or what, but he slowed down massively after that first round against AJ Fletcher. So if you can't wrestle for the full 3 rounds, I mean, there's going to be some problems, but I think he could get the sub. I was looking at Grimbo's sub. I think that's in play. And if you like Sato, I think if Sato wins, it's got to be by knockout because Sato's not really a minute winner. He doesn't throw anything. He's not going to win the grappling exchanges. So I think if Sato wins it, he probably knocks out Gorimbo. The best look, honestly, is probably violence here. They have the fight doesn't go sitting at minus 180, but laying that much chalk on a fight like this is kind of scary. But I think it hits. I think somebody gets finished here one way or another, Weezy.
Yeah, I like violence here too. And Bet Online had the under 2.5 out at minus 155 earlier in the week, and then DraftKings opened it at minus 175 today. You know, I mean, I think it's kind of like a parlayable one. I mean, you look at the finish rates against for both of these guys. Themba has been finished in 3 of 4 pro losses, and Takashi's been finished in 5 of 6. You know, so I mean, you're talking about 8 of these guys' 10 career losses are inside the distance, and Themba finishes fights by submission, which is where Sato tends to get finished the most, and Takashi's got knockouts. And we've seen Themba get knocked out before in the past. So, yeah, I think that the violence is a pretty good look here. You just don't want to overpay too much for it, because if that goes tits up, Brady, you know what you're going to be saying at the end of the fight. How the fuck did I count on Themba Gorimbo or Takashi Sato to get a UFC finish here. You know,
Exactly.
so that's kind of like what we're up against. And it's that kind of a card, isn't it? You know, where almost all these fights at the end of the night, if you're heavily invested on this card and it goes tits up, you are going to be depressed because you're going to have that bankroll management talk with yourself. You're going to have that I forced too many bets on ass fighters talk with yourself. It's all talks that you don't want to have with yourself, Brady.
Yep, for sure. So I think I'm gonna. I don't know. Like I said, I'd be kind of tempted on the Grimble money line, but I think the sub is definitely in play. We'll see what happens on this one. All right, we'll move on, Weezy, to the biggest favorite on the card. What could go wrong with a minus 1,000 WMA favorite here? We got Natalia Silva going against Victoria Leonardo. We got Silva, 26 years old, 5'4" with a 65-inch reach. Leonardo, 33 years old, 5'5" with a 64-inch reach. We got Silva, who's 7 years younger, 1-inch height disadvantage, and then a 1-inch reach advantage. Natalia Silva, 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Jasmine Jazz the Vicious, won that fight by decision, and then knocked out the very handsome Teresa Bleda in the fight after that in the 3rd round. Victoria Leonardo, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She won on the Contender Series by KO. She made her debut against Mana Fiora, lost that fight by knockout. Lost the fight against Melissa Gatto by knockout injury there, and then she beat Mandy Bum by decision. So, yeah, this was like the first fight I researched last week because I had some interest, I guess, maybe parlaying up Natalia Silva around like minus 500. Ended up not doing that, and then now she's like minus 1,000. So maybe I should have, would have beat a lot of line movement. But yeah, Silva should have recovered pretty much everywhere. I guess the one area where Leonardo probably can win some minutes is just going to be the cage control, just holding Silva against the cage, because Leonardo can do a little bit of that, and Silva can be stuck against the cage at times, but everywhere else, it's just Silva all day, every day. Her takedown defense looks elite, so I don't see Leonardo taking her down. And then at range, it's night and day. It's not even close. Silva's going to be the much better striker by a mile. Am I going to lay minus 1,000 on Natalia Silva? No, but should she win this fight? Absolutely, she should. Kind of disappointed. I was hoping for some plus money on Silva inside the distance. She's a solid finisher. Leonardo finished in all of her losses, but like minus 150, I think minus 160 now for Natalia Silva to win inside the distance. So yeah, pretty much an unbettable fight unless the other books get something out. But the pick is obviously Natalia Silva here. Weezy, what is sticking out for you?
Yeah, what's sticking out is that I'm picking Natalia Silva to win this fight, Brady, you know, and once again, you know, because usually Stat Diggers is first to market, a lot of people would have copied me this week, but they can't, you know, because now we're doing it on Tuesday night. But let's talk about Natalia Silva's advantages, and this is going to take a minute. She's 7 years younger. She's got a 1-inch reach advantage, and she's a southpaw. She's got the overall experience advantage over Victoria Leonardo. She's got 7 more pro fights, 35 more minutes in the pro cage, and 3 more years as a professional fighter. Natalia took her first professional fight at the age of 18, and Leonardo took her first professional fight at the age of 28. So Natalia's got the better striking, and it really isn't even close at all. Natalia's distance striking differential is positive 5.9 per minute, and Victoria's is negative 3.04. I mean, so it's just not even close on the feet. And when you watch Natalia on the feet, she's a southpaw. She's fast. She throws a wide variety of weapons, and she's got a little bit of power, and she's always throwing in combination. So I love what I see from her on the feet. That, you know, she's also shown 92% takedown defense, and she's fought Bleda and Jazz the Vicious, who attempted 13 takedowns in 2 fights against her, and they only got 1 of them, but they were able to control her for about 32.3% of her UFC cage time, but a lot of it was cage control and not ground control. So we can see Leonardo find ways to win some minutes, but I don't think she's going to win minutes by getting damage. You know, I think she's going to be holding her up against the cage. Potentially she gets a takedown and wins some minutes on the ground here, but every minute that this fight is on the feet is going to be a big deficit for Victoria Leonardo. Now, Victoria's got a little more UFC level experience. She's got 1 more fight almost 10 more minutes in the octagon. Victoria's the more committed wrestler, and she's heavy on top and does win some minutes in the clinch as well. She's definitely faced a much better level of competition in her career, and that is important. She's going to need to get this fight to the ground and rack up top control in order to have any chance of winning this fight, though. Silva's a huge favorite here, and with good reason. She's younger. She's more well-rounded. Her striking is so much better than that Vicky's that it isn't even funny. She's on an 8-fight winning streak at the moment, and her excellent performances against Jasmine Jasudavicius and Teresa Bleda being our most recent memories of her. I can see why this line has gotten so wide. This should be Silva all day, but it's women's MMA, so my advice would be to tread very, very lightly.
Can I interest you in some Silva inside the distance, minus 175?
No, thank you. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Actually, I was looking earlier in the week. They had the over 2.5 rounds at plus 140 on Bet Online, and I took a long look at that, but it didn't stay there. Because Leonardo has been finishing all of her losses, but you look at her, she's tough. She's really tough. One of her finishes was because she broke her arm. One of them came via a square head kick landed by Erin Blanchfield. Another one came against Manon Fialho. Silva's not on that level yet, so maybe Silva doesn't get the finish here, but this line is so juiced to the tits that there's no value on any of the props. So this is going to be a nice stay away. I'll watch this fight, and Natalia Silva, very easy on the eyes, so it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Silva should finish, but laying minus 175, I think a lot could go wrong laying that type of price tag on it. Because like you said, Leonardo is very tough. Finished on all her losses, but very tough. So, yeah, it's going to be a big pass for me. And obviously, parlaying Silva at minus 1,000 doesn't add much to your parlay.
Nope. And just one more thing. One more reason, Brady, to cut Mandy Bohm's sorry ass is how do you come off a win and then wind up being a plus 650 underdog? Well, the answer is if that win came over Mandy Bum. And that's the case here with Victoria Leonardo. Just another on the very long list of reasons to cut Mandy Bohm.
So true. Mandy Bum's so bad that me and you had a bet on Victoria Leonardo.
And what did we do with that bet? I remember cashing it, didn't we, Brady?
Yeah, it was. I didn't feel good placing it, but it felt good cashing it.
It sure did, because it wasn't exactly pretty, but cash is a cash.
Heck yeah! All right, we'll keep moving on. Weezy, we have Chase Hooper going against Nick Fiore. We got Chase Hooper, 23 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Nick Fiore, 25 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Chase Hooper, 2 years younger. Chase Hooper with a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Chase Hooper is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss against Alex Caceres, a submission win against Slippery Pete Barrett, a decision loss against Steven Peterson, a knockout win against Felipe Calorish, a knockout loss against Steve Garcia. As far as Nick Fiore, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut short notice against Mateusz Rebecki. And this is a very heated matchup between the community. Like every time I've logged on Twitter this week, like people are yelling at each other and screaming at each other on Twitter about this matchup. So very, very highly debated, highly contested matchup here. And we have pretty close odds. Looks like some odds movement. It looks like Chase Hooper opened up minus 116. He went all the way to minus 140. He's currently plus 118. Nick Fiore opened up minus 104. Went all the way to plus 120 or so. And then he's currently at minus 138. So a little bit of line movement here. And yeah, this is a fight where there's not a lot of footage out there of Nick Fiore. I was able to find a couple pro fights. And then there's like a lot of amateur fights. So I still don't know a ton about this guy. He does train at New England Cartel. He is a BJJ black belt. But I still have question marks about him in terms of what does he look like when the fight gets extended. We saw that in the Rebecki fight, and he didn't look that great. He looked to slow down quite a bit, but he took that fight on short notice. And all of his other wins are in the very first round. Obviously, a big talking point this week is Nick Fiore's level of competition. Some very, very questionable competition there. It's a fight where I feel like a lot of people are really looking to fade Chase Hooper.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is going to be the spot. But again, this is a low-level fight, a fight that I don't know I want to place any money on. But Weezy, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, when Chase was a minus 300 favorite against Steve Garcia, that was the time to fade him. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that I had a bet on Steve Garcia in that fight, or if I didn't, I was thinking about it all week and then just didn't pull the trigger because I was like, man, this line doesn't make any sense. So I don't remember whether I bet him or not, but that was the time to fade Chase. But the reason that he was such a big favorite was because we saw another Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with a much better resume, with who's known to be very durable, absolutely get the fucking floor mopped with him by Chase Hooper and Felipe Colares. Rest in peace to Felipe Colares, who passed away a couple of weeks ago after getting hit by a bus after practice. So rest in power, Felipe Colares. That was just horrible news. But Chase destroyed that dude. He finished Felipe Colares, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, on the ground, something that Montel Jackson didn't do, and it was off of that performance that we saw that really wide line for Hooper. And we saw, okay, maybe this kid Hooper really is for real because he's got really good grappling. And then he went out there against Steve Garcia and people just thought, oh, well, he's going to go through him. But Colares wanted to grapple. Steve didn't. So Steve just pounded him. And look at the numbers, dude. 40% distance striking defense for Chase Hooper. I mean, you're not going to see any worse than that anywhere. So it's a very interesting fight. But let's go to my notes here, Brady, because Chase Hooper's 2 years younger, 3 inches taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's up a weight class now. No longer a featherweight. He's now a lightweight. We knew that this was something that he was going to have to do anyway because, I mean, when you're that young, you can cut down to 145, but as you actually start to have some older man strength, put some muscle on your frame, there's no way that you're going to make that weight at 6 feet tall. So he's more experienced overall and in the UFC as Chase Hooper, 8 more pro fights, 120 more minutes in the pro cage, 2 more years as a pro, 5 more UFC fights, almost 50 more minutes in the octagon. He does his best work in the grappling exchanges because his striking is trash. 40.7% distance striking defense, which is about as bad as it gets. But when he's on the mat, he's very aggressive and dangerous with his submission attempts. He's finished all 3 of his UFC wins, and they've all come on the mat. Fiore in his UFC debut was controlled for 56.33% of the fight. So there is a path to victory for Chase here, as Fiore can be controlled on the mat. Chase has fought the much better level of competition in his career. His wins and losses are better than Nick's. Now, Nick is going to be the better striker here, and that's about it. He's smaller. He's less experienced. He's at a grappling deficiency. And, I mean, yeah, I know he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but show me anything on tape to suggest that he's going to mop the floor with Chase Hooper, a guy who went to decision in a grappling match with Renato Moicano. So Chase is so bad, though, on the feet. If Fiore can just keep this fight standing, he's probably going to be at a huge advantage. But I feel as if Chase has the advantages everywhere here, but in the striking. And we've never known Nick Fiore to win fights with his striking, right? So Chase is younger, he's bigger, he's more experienced, he's the better grappler, and he's fought the much better level of competition. Chase's striking, and especially his striking defense, is a huge concern. But Chase only spends 46% of his UFC cage time at distance striking range. But for Fiore, it's less than 40%. So I do see this fight being a grappling match. And if that's the case, I've got to favor Hooper. I'll pick Chase to win the fight by decision.
Yep, I got to be on the Chase side as well. Not sure if I'm going to bet it or not, but it's got to be the Chase side for me. Like, if this fight does get extended, which I think it does, I don't see Fiore. I know a lot of people think Fiore's going to knock out Hooper because Steve Garcia did it, but Nick
Fiore knocked out. I mean,
I don't know. He's a grappler. He's a grappler. So I think they're going to grapple, and I don't trust Fiore's cardio. So I think Hooper can win a lot of the exchanges, if not to get a late finish. But again, I don't know if I want to touch anything on this fight. The fight doesn't go minus 190. It was like minus, what was it? It was minus 250. It opened up. So money's coming in on the overs. Any thoughts on the over under, Weezy, or anything like that?
I like the over 1.5 rounds, but it was like in that range where I kind of feel like I have to max bet it or leave it alone. And I'm just not max, I'm not max betting anything on this card. All right. So it was something that was kind of like a stay away from me. But stylistically, I kind of feel like black belt versus black belt. Chase Hooper's not knocking out Fiore on the feet. And I don't think Fiore's knocking out anybody at the UFC level. Even Chase Hooper, whose striking is trash, I don't think Fiore's is that much better than his. So, I kind of feel like this fight maybe ends by submission or it goes to decision. So, I actually placed a bet on Chase Hooper at plus money, 1 unit, plus 120. I just think he's got way too. I think it's so much more of a show me spot for Nick Fiore than it is for Chase Hooper. So we'll see how it goes.
Yep, for sure. Should be a fight where we learn a lot, I think, about both guys. We're going to see Chase Hooper at this new weight class, and we're going to find out a lot about Nick Fiore. I don't think we got to see a lot about him in his debut against Rebecki. Just a terrible, terrible matchup there on short notice. But, yep, we'll see what happens throughout the week. I don't know if I'm going to bet it or not, but I do lean the Hooper side ever so slightly. All right, moving on to the people's main events. We got Ilir Latifi going against Rodrigo Nascimento. We got Latifi, 40 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. Nascimento, 30 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach. Nascimento, 10 years younger, with a 4-inch height advantage and a 7-inch reach advantage. Latifi is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to Corey Anderson, knockout loss against Volkan Oezdemir, decision loss against Derek Lewis, decision win against Tanner Boser, and then a decision win against Alexei Oleinik. As far as Nascimento, he is 3-1 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Dontel Mays, won that fight by submission. He got knocked out by Chris Daukaus. He had a no contest against Alain Badeau in a fight where he got I believe, a second-round knockout. And then won a split decision against Tanner Boser. Ugly fight, terrible fight here, and that's because it's an Ilir Latifi fight. Weezy, when was the last time you've seen a exciting Ilir Latifi fight?
I actually taped this fight today, and actually his fight against Ryan Bader wasn't bad, but I think that might have been over 5 years ago. Latifi as a heavyweight, his fights have been dog shit.
Oh, man.
Dude, just dog shit. I mean, because at least at 205, Latifi could knock you out. He got a submission via a guillotine choke against somebody. He'd been knocked out a couple of times. But at heavyweight, dude, he decided, I'm going to move up, I'm going to wrestle, and I'm going to do nothing.
Yeah.
He does nothing, dude. Look at those 1.8 distance strikes landed per minute. I mean, I shit you not. The lowest number I've ever seen is like 4.
Oh.
You know what I mean? He's so low volume. So, yeah, dude, I mean, Latifi fights. Let's go through the numbers because you and I, Brady, we're nothing if we're not professionals, right?
Yes.
So, so let's go through it. Let's break this fight down as if it matters, right? Ilir has got the experience advantage. He's got 14 more professional fights, 160 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 5 more years as a pro fighter. He's also got the UFC experience advantage with 11 more fights and 100 more minutes in the octagon. Both Ilir and Rodrigo are good wrestlers who win the majority of their minutes and moments with their grappling. It's Ilir who's the better wrestler and top control minute winner, as he wins almost 94% of the control time positions he's in, while also showing 100% takedown defense over 15 UFC fights, but it's only 7 attempts. But he's been in there with some really good wrestlers who couldn't take him down. Ryan Bader tried to take him down, couldn't get him down. Not even close, really. So if one of these guys is going to be more successful with the wrestling, I would have to say it's going to be Latifi. In his 3 UFC fights at heavyweight, he's 2-1. He's got 8 takedowns on 16 attempts and over 53% control time, Brady. So Ilir has fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of UFC competition in comparison to Nascimento. Now, Nascimento the man who puts the ass in Nascimento, okay? He's the natural heavyweight here. He's 10 years younger, 4 inches taller, and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's been the better finisher as a pro, but in a much smaller sample size. He's going to be the better and busier striker in this matchup. He pressures constantly. He lands 8.03 distance strikes per minute, while Ilir is landing 1.86. So as long as this fight is on the feet, Ilir will have like the proverbial puncher's chance, but there's no way he wins any minutes at distance striking range, being older, slower, smaller, and at a 7-inch reach disadvantage. Rodrigo's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so he's the bigger dude, the better submission grappler, but Ilir Latifi doesn't have a neck, and he's never been submitted in his professional career. So Rodrigo has not faced one takedown attempt in his 4 UFC fights. So it's kind of really hard to know what Rodrigo Nascimento's takedown defense is even going to look like and what his bottom game looks like should Ilir get him there. I love Rodrigo's size. I love his striking, his speed. I mean, and you wouldn't say that in any other fight that you liked Rodrigo Nascimento's speed, but in this matchup, he's actually much faster than Ilir Latifi. I mean, you could time Ilir's overhand right on a sundial. So, I mean, Rodrigo's actually faster than this guy. And he should be very hard to take down and hold down. But that is going to be Ilir's path to victory here, along with maybe landing a big shot on the feet. I wouldn't recommend laying this kind of juice on the Nascimento money line without knowing how he's going to deal with the offensive wrestling of Latifi. However, I do feel confident saying that there's virtually no chance of Latifi winning this fight without getting takedowns and lots of control time, because Ilir's UFC record in fights where he's gotten either a knockdown, Brady, or at least 90 seconds of control time. So when Ilir gets 90 seconds of control time or a knockdown or both, he's 8 wins and 2 losses. But one of those losses came against Derek Lewis in a fight that he might have actually won. It was a very close fight. But if you look at Latifi, he's 8-2 in those fights, but his UFC record is 9-6. So when he doesn't get a knockdown, when he doesn't get at least a minute and a half of control time, you know, this dude is 1-4 in the UFC. So he's very dependent on either getting that knockdown or getting a ton of takedowns and control time. So without knowing what Nascimento's ground game looks like, I'm just going to pick Nascimento to win this fight by decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ugly fight. I guess all it comes down to for me is because I don't see Nascimento taking down Latifi at all. I don't think that's happening. It just comes down to, is Latifi able to take down Nascimento in 2 out of the 3 rounds? I think that's his path to victory. Take this guy down and do absolutely nothing, but still win the round. On the feet, it's not even close, and not because I think Nascimento's some amazing striker. It's not even close because one guy does nothing at all. And the other guy in Nascimento, he actually does do something on the feet worth mentioning. So, I lean Nascimento as well, but minus 200. I mean, what are you going to do on a low level heavyweight fight like this? It's a pretty easy pass for me. It looks like money's came in on Nascimento throughout the week. The over under set at 2.5, the over 2.5 plus 100 monies came in on the over, which makes sense. This has all the makings of being like a sloppy, greasy heavyweight decision where they're both gassed in the second round and they both do absolutely nothing. So it might be a sweat-free over where neither guy does anything here at all.
I bet the over, Brady. I've got it at plus 115 or plus 110. I forget which, but Nascimento is probably not going to submit Latifi. Latifi has never been submitted in 25 professional fights. And I don't think that Latifi is going to knock out Nascimento. I mean, I think he's going to try to just win the minutes here. And I want to point out one more thing. Latifi took down Derek Lewis 3 times in their fight. One of those takedowns happened at the end of the round, so Lewis didn't get up. And the other 2 takedowns, Murgliata had to stand up Derek Lewis. So, like, Derek Lewis didn't get up any of the times that Latifi took him down. So Latifi could have even had more control time in that matchup if Murgliata wasn't, interfering. So Latifi's very, very good. And if you're on that Nascimento money line, I'm telling you, what's going to happen is he's probably getting taken down in 2 out of these 3 rounds. You're going to be like, fuck, get up. And you're going to realize that when Latifi gets that fat ass on top of you, man, you're not getting up. It's like being underneath a fire hydrant, you know? So it's going to be very sweaty if you're on that Nascimento side. And maybe Latifi by decision at plus 400 or better for a quarter unit might be worth a play because he can eat up minutes in the grappling.
Yeah, what a greasy fight this is. Greasy fight. We show. I think you're overhit. I think you're oversold though. I don't like betting overs, but it just seems like this should be like if there's a finish, I think it's probably like a Nascimento knockout. And Latifi has a pretty good chin on him. I think the last time he's been knocked out was against Uzdemir. And that was a while ago, wasn't it? A couple years ago.
Yeah, and Derek Lewis didn't even knock him out.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those things. I think the over is a good look here. Latifi does nothing
at all.
He's got no neck either, so you can't submit the guy. So yeah, I like the over, but it's a heavyweight fight, so obviously you know anything can happen.
Heck yeah! All right, let's keep on moving on to this next fight. We have Orion Cosce going against Gilbert Urbina. We got Orion Cosce, 28 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Urbina, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Urbina, 1 year younger. Urbina with a 4-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. We have Orion Cosce, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Phil Rowe, lost that fight by knockout, and then beat Blood Diamond the next fight after that by decision. And he did have a 3rd-round TKO win on the Contender Series. Gilbert Urbina, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Brian Battle and lost that fight by 2nd-round submission, taking that fight on short notice. And this is probably the biggest pass for me on the card. I want nothing to do with this fight. I don't trust either guy in this fight. Weezy, any strong takes in this one here?
Wow, you just said it, didn't you? Look at Orion Cosce's distance striking numbers. He lands 3.42 per minute and absorbs 9.55.
Holy crap.
And then look at Gilbert Urbina's distance striking numbers. He lands 4.66 and absorbs 9.33. I mean, that's so bad. He got knocked down 3 times in a round and a half by Trayshawn Gore. Just kept getting dropped, blocking punches with his face. Beautiful head of hair on that kid, though. I mean, just an absolutely beautiful head of hair on him. And he comes from a fighting family, as does Cosce. So let's do what professionals do, Brady, and pretend that this fight isn't complete ass and break it down from nose to toes here. So let's go. Orion Cosce. Very slight UFC experience advantage. 1 more fight, 17 more minutes in the octagon. Better finish rate as a pro for Orion, 87.5% to 50% for Gil. Orion does a solid job of winning minutes with his wrestling. In his almost 25 minutes of UFC cage time, he's got 5 takedowns, and he gets almost 66% control time while yielding only 5.5%. So he's using that wrestling to win over 92% of the control time positions that he's been in, and his fights are in those positions over 71% of the time. College wrestler in the Pac-10 in Oregon State University. I think he might have wrestled there for 1 or 2 years before going full-time into his MMA career. So the kid can legitimately wrestle, and that's his path to victory. Now, with Gilbert Urbina, he's the much bigger dude. He fought at middleweight when he was in the Tough House. He's almost 2 years younger. He's 4 inches taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage. Even though both Gilbert and Orion's UFC striking metrics are ass, it's Gilbert who hits harder. He throws more volume. He's more accurate and defensively responsible at distance, and he has a 4-inch height and reach advantage, so he should be the more effective striker while this fight is at range. He's shown solid wrestling and grappling in the Tough House and on the regional scene, but I'm not sure if he's as proficient of a minute winner there as Orion Cosce has been, but we'll find out for sure on Saturday. Gilbert has fought the better brand of competition as a pro, and let's not forget that Orion has fought 2 primarily strikers in Rowe and Mafefa here, so this is going to be the first fight that we're seeing him fight a guy in Gilbert Urbina who wins more minutes and moments with his grappling than he does with his striking. So it's kind of an interesting matchup. I don't think either of these guys has a massive advantage anywhere that this fight goes. But I do lean towards Gilbert's size, youth, and better striking. I think the grappling exchanges are going to be close, but Gilbert's faced better grapplers than Cosce has, and he's performed admirably. Don't forget, this guy went the distance with Sean Brady. I think Gil's got a higher ceiling, the better pedigree, comes from a fighting family, much more beautiful head of hair. So I'm picking him to win, but I am not fucking betting this fight, Brady.
Yeah, this is probably my least amount of interest I have in betting a fight on a card. Like, I think I'd be more inclined to bet the Latifi fight than this fight. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I went and watched all the tape on Urbina. I watched the tough fights. I watched some fights outside the UFC. I wanted to see how his cardio looked like outside of the first round because we saw it in the battle fight. It looked bad, right? But he took that fight on short notice. But went and watched this other fight, and his cardio still doesn't look that great. He was making mistakes in a third round, losing position. And then there's Cosce, who I don't know. I don't think he's that great either. So I don't know. I think it would have to be. I see why money's coming in on Urbina just because, how could Cosce be this big of a favorite? But I don't know. I feel like it's just a big pass for me. Cosce opened up minus 230. Believe it or not, he's now minus 125. Urbina opened up plus 195. He's currently plus 105. So, yeah, obviously early money on Urbina was probably the move because I feel like nobody should be favored in this fight. So, and in terms of like the totals, I was thinking like the under. But Cosce actually has a lot of fights that finish over 2.5 rounds. I think he has two fights that have finished over the 2.5 round mark. So I guess I would opt for the fight doesn't go to decision, but even then, it's not something I'm too excited about. Any thoughts on the over under, Weezy? Kind of a tricky one as well.
Yeah, very tricky. I wouldn't touch it. There's no lean in terms of the data that I have on the prop template. There's nothing that's pushing me one way or another. And my stylistic read of this fight is just kind of all over the place. So, yeah I'm not touching the time props. I'm not touching the money lines on this one. I'm going to be just absolutely staying away.
Yeah. This fight's giving me a headache. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, man. Like,
you know what's a good way to look at this, Brady, is when we used to talk about like when we're looking for a draw bet, right?
Yeah.
Best way to pick the draw is when neither fighter is good enough to win the fight. We should have a draw bet on like 6 fights on this fucking card. We might be retiring and buying yachts by just there being like 4 draws on this card because both fighters are so ass that you can't literally hand it to either one of them. And guess what, Brady? Guess what?
What's up?
Mandy Bohm versus Ji-yeon Kim. And by the way, we should absolutely cut Mandy Bohm. She needs to be cut. But 2-point deductions. That fight could have been a fucking draw. And that would have been a fight where we would have been like, neither one of these ladies is good enough to win this fight. It was this close to being a draw. I think it's coming this week. It's going to be Cosce Urbina. It's going to be Latifi Nascimento. It's going to be Kowalkiewicz Demopoulos or Themba Gorimbo versus Takashi Sato. One of those fights is ending up in a draw.
I wouldn't be shocked if every single fight on this card was a draw, Weezy. Every fight just ended up being a draw. Oh, I'm struggling with this one, man. I'm struggling with this card. But we'll move on to another fight. We have Karolina Kowalkiewicz going against Vanessa Demopoulos. We got Kowalkiewicz, 37 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Demopoulos, 34 years old, 5'2" with a 59-inch reach. Demopoulos, 3 years younger, 1-inch height disadvantage, and then a 5-inch reach disadvantage. Karolina, she has 2-3 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Grasso, Yan Jiaonan, and a submission loss to Jessica Penne. A submission win against Felice Herrig, and then a decision win against Silvana Gomez-Juarez. As far as Demopoulos, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Made her debut against Aldrich, lost that fight by decision. Beat Silvana Gomez-Juarez by submission. Beat Jin Fry by decision, and then beat Maria Oliveira by decision. Yeah, another really greasy fight here. Karolina is somebody who I thought she was going to retire after that Penne fight. She didn't retire. She fought Herrig, and I thought for a fact that that was going to be Karolina's retirement fight. It ended up being Herrig, the one that retired in that fight. And then she goes on to fight Silvana Gomez-Juarez. Super close fight, but she clearly wins it there. Outstriking Silvana Gomez-Juarez. Demopoulos is somebody who seems to be making improvements. Like even at 34 years old, it seems like she's starting to put it together a little bit more. Her wrestling's looking a little bit better. She was able to hit some nice takedowns against Maria Oliveira. Her striking is always going to be a liability. Her striking defense is always going to be a liability, but she's got that dog in her. She's going to come forward. She's going to wing hard shots. And if she can't get the fight down to the mat, that's kind of her world. We got another very close pick'em type fight on this card, Weezy. What do you feel about this one?
I like Karolina Kowalkiewicz over 67.5 significant strikes on prize picks. Vanessa just blocks punches with her face and has no striking defense. And Karolina throws a lot of volume. But probably my favorite Greek fighter in the entire UFC, Vanessa Demopoulos. So I'm always going to be a little bit, biased when it comes to her fights. But let's break it down. KK is the bigger lady. She's got a 1-inch height, a 5-inch reach advantage. That's going to be significant in this spot. She has the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 8 more pro fights, 85 more minutes in the pro cage, 5.5 more years as a pro. KK will be the superior striker, 5-inch reach advantage that she has, and the superior output and much better distance striking defense. 62% distance striking defense for Kowalkiewicz. 45% distance striking defense for Vanessa Demopoulos. Karolina's fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of UFC competition. Vanessa is 3 years younger than Karolina. She's the better finisher as a pro, and she will definitely have more power while this fight is on the feet. Vanessa's the superior submission grappler. She averages 0.95 takedowns per 15 minutes and 0.63 submission attempts per 15 minutes, and she does have one UFC win via submission over Silvana Gomez-Juarez. I see this as being a striker versus grappler matchup. While it's on the feet, Kowalkiewicz is going to be busier. She's going to be more defensively responsible and the better minute winner. Vanessa needs to get this fight to the ground where she can work her submission game and where Karolina has been subbed twice in her 7 UFC losses. So that's where Vanessa has her best shot outside of landing a big shot on the feet, which is certainly possible, as Vanessa does throw with power and purpose, and she's strong. The Cynthia Arcio fight, she won that fight in less than 30 seconds via takedown. A huge right hand that just sent, Cynthia to the land of wind and ghosts. So Vanessa does have power on the feet, and she does have way more finishing equity here. I love the finish-only prop for Vanessa Demopoulos. She is descended from Spartans, Brady, the toughest warriors in the history of this planet. And nobody's knocking her out. Nobody's finishing her. She's very tough. And she's got the power advantage, and she's got the submission grappling advantage. I was kind of hoping to find that line at something reasonable, but Bet Online, the king of ass props, Brady, they opened that line at -230. And I mean, not to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Bet Online has some of the worst fucking props that I have ever seen in my entire life. What a disgrace that they open some of this shit at. Right now, André Fialho is plus 200 on the money line, and his inside the distance prop is at plus 185, Brady. I mean, I'm not even joking about that. They're giving you less money for inside the distance than they are for the money line. The Kowalkiewicz by decision, when her money line is like -140, is like -125. I found 3 props yesterday on Bet Online that were actually fat. Maheshate by first round KO at plus 4,000, second round KO at plus 4,500, third round KO plus 5,500. But since they were fat props, they actually canceled all those bets. I am telling you, I am giving the MAP award, which is something that we used to give back in my fraternity days, at the Harvard of the Midwest, Northern Illinois University, Sigma Chi fraternity, Brady. We would give the MAP award, which was the most ass partier, to somebody that fucked up on party night. You know, they wound up puking all over themselves. They wound up going home to actually put a test that they had the next day in front of partying the night before. And if you got that award, you were known as the most ass partier. Well, the most ass props award, Brady, goes to Bet Online, and it's not even close. Thank you for giving me worse odds on inside the distance for Fialho than you give me on the money line. You guys suck.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Fluffy fight in a little bit, but two props I was looking at was like Fluffy round 2, Fluffy round 3, and Fluffy round 2 is like plus 350, and Fluffy round 3 is like plus 450.
Like, it's the worst I've ever seen. Like, I think they fattened them up a little bit, but it's so bad. So their props. I mean, we make the joke that they're telling you to go fuck yourself. I mean, they really are telling you to go fuck yourself if you're an MMA bettor with some of these props that they put out. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's wild. It is wild, some of these. D-Mop finish only minus 260 now.
Fucking assholes. It's a pick'em.
Yeah.
It's almost as a matter of fact, Demopoulos is the underdog here, and I got to pay minus 260 for a finish only. Get out of town, man.
I might sprinkle like Demopoulos inside the distance at like plus 300 or something. Just because I think if she gets the fight down to the mat, like she's super dangerous. But outside of that, again, not too much interest in this fight. We have Demopoulos. Yeah, she is the dog. Plus 112 currently. Karolina minus 132. I don't know. But yeah, maybe Demopoulos inside the distance for me. But I was also looking at that finish only, but very disappointed with those odds.
Yeah, I like Kowalkiewicz to win this one by decision because she's got solid takedown defense and she should be the better minute winner at range here. But Karolina's 37 years old. She's 3 years older than Vanessa, and Vanessa's getting better. She's starting to put it all together. She's 34, but there are some areas where she can win minutes and moments in this fight. She's definitely the better moment winner anywhere the fight goes, in my opinion. So yeah, Vanessa's definitely live. The official pick, Karolina by decision, but I don't think I'll be touching this one.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you, Weezy. All right, let's move on to, I think this is the first good fight on the card.
Yes, it is. No question about it.
Finally, we got it. We got it here. We have Maheshate going against Slava Borschev. We got Maheshate, 23 years old, 6 foot, with a 71-inch reach. We got Borschev, 31 years old, 5'11", with a 69-inch reach. We have Borschev, who's going to be 8 years older. He's going to have a 1-inch height disadvantage and then a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Borschev, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Dakota Bush, won that fight by knockout, and lost a decision to both Diakese and Mike Davis. As far as Maheshate, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Steve Garcia. He won that fight by first-round knockout, right?
Steve Garcia.
I think so.
Oh, yeah, he definitely did. Yeah, there's no question about that. I'll change that right now.
And then he lost the decision to Rafa Garcia, I believe, as well. So
yeah, they got mixed up.
Yeah, so I'm happy. I'm happy that we're actually going to see Slava fight another striker. I mean, anytime this guy fights anybody with any type of wrestling at all, he's going to lose. He has some of the worst takedown defense you'll ever see in your life. On paper, it's 31% takedown defense. Luckily, he's going against Maheshate, who I watched all the footage available. I've seen him hit no takedowns at all, so I don't see him really going out there and taking down Borschev. But maybe Borshev's takedown defense is so bad that Maheshate does try it, but I doubt it. I think Maheshate is going to strike with Borschev. I think these guys are going to stand and bang Weezy. I think this is a very good violent spot here. I think somebody's getting served in this matchup. Both guys really good strikers. Both guys really good power. I think Borschev has more tools on the feet. I think he's the better striker. Bootsy disagrees with me, but I'll say Borschev by knockout, but I think somebody's getting knocked out here, and I think this is potentially my pick for fight of the night. I think these guys are going to throw down Weezy.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Brady. You have forgotten one very important fact about our friend Maheshate, and that is that he is a Chinese Greco-Roman wrestling champion, my friend. And there is no better Greco-Roman. When you think of Greco-Roman wrestling, you think of the Chinese, okay? That's all there is to it. And like like the great Hu Yazong, we've got a great wrestler here in Maheshate. Look, it's a great fight, like you said. I mean, you broke it down perfectly. It's going to be actually a striker versus striker matchup, and we get to see Maheshate and Borschev both get the fight that they want, and this is going to be a great one for the fans here. Maheshate's 8 years younger, though. This kid is still only 23 years old, Brady. 1 inch taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage, slight pro experience advantage, actually, even though he's the younger guy here. This guy's been fighting for 4 years as a pro, so he turned pro at 19. But Borschev turned pro at 27. So Borschev had a long kickboxing career before he got into MMA. It's been Maheshate who's been doing MMA since he was about 19. So the Borschev advantages, though, he's got a slight UFC experience advantage, 1 more fight, 17 more minutes in the UFC cage. He's the better striker, even though this is a striker versus striker matchup. Slava's got a positive 3.32 distance striking differential compared to negative 0.22 for Maheshate. And his accuracy is much better, 52% for Slava. Maheshate couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He's got a 20.27 distance accuracy. So that's really bad. And his distance defense is also a little bit better at 64% for Borschev compared to like 59.5% for Maheshate. I don't know which one of these guys is the better grappler, to be honest with you. And in terms of overall level of competition at the UFC level, it's probably a little bit better on paper for Maheshate, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, like, I don't even know who these guys are that these guys fought prior to the UFC, but none of them are really great fighters except for maybe the guy who Maheshate wore like a cheap suit in his second fight in ACB. He got out-grappled by a grappler. But other than that, these guys haven't fought a great level of regional scene competition here. So fun striker versus striker matchup. I like Maheshate's youth, length. His jump knees are really good, Brady. And that potential Chinese Greco-Roman wrestling upside, a la Hu Yazong, is something that you don't ever want to ignore. But Slava does seem to be the crisper striker, faster hands, and much more accuracy. I've never seen Maheshate wrestle, and if he doesn't wrestle here, he gives Slava the fight he wants, and I'd have to side with Slava to win the fight. Should be a barn burner, though, and I'm hoping to see that badass Russian kick dance after this fight ends.
Yep, that'd be very nice. I don't know if I touched that. What is it? Slava minus 175, Maheshate plus 150. Like I said, I'm kind of looking for violence here. I think I saw the fight doesn't go around minus 200. Somebody in the chat said maybe the under 1.5 rounds. I'll just see what I do with it, but should be a very violent fight. I think these guys are going to go to war here.
Yeah, absolutely. Really fun fight. Great striker versus striker matchup. I think both of these kids are going to get the fight that they want, and the fans are going to get the fight that they want because we're going to be able to see both of these guys at their best, doing what they do best in the cage, and that's serving people with their striking.
Yep. Maheshate first round KO is now plus 800. It opened.
Yeah. We got it at plus 4,000, and then they said, "Nah, you know what? We're not gonna." I know we posted that line, but we're not gonna honor it. And now you can come back at plus 800. Yeah, what bums? What bums? The most ass props award, the MAP award, going to Bet Online from 2018 to present every damn year.
Yeah, the only thing I like about Bet Online is they get props out first.
They do.
But I mean, it's not worth anything
first.
And I know, but it's not worth anything if they're not going to be playable. Like there were no lines that were playable, in my opinion.
Dude, we DM back and forth every single week when the props start to drop, and we're always saying the same shit to each other, Brady. What the fuck are these guys doing? Really? You're going to give me minus 125 on Kowalkiewicz by decision when she's minus 140 on the money line? Really? I'll tell you what. Just put "go fuck yourself" next to Karolina Kowalkiewicz by decision. I'll get the point much quicker.
Yeah. Exactly. But let's keep on moving on. We have, oh boy, we have Carlos Diego Ferreira going against Michael Johnson. We got Diego Ferreira, 38 years old, 5'9" with a 74-inch reach. Michael Johnson, 36 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Michael Johnson, 2 years younger. Michael Johnson with a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. We have Carlos Diego Ferreira, who is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision win against Taisimov, a submission win against Pettis, a decision loss against Dariush, knockout loss to Gillespie and Gamrot. As far as Michael Johnson, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Thiago Moises, decision loss against Clay Guida, knockout win against Alan Patrick, decision loss against Jamie Mularkey, and then a decision win against Mark Diakase. Yeah, this is a 1-800 gambler fight for me, just due to the fact that it's a Michael Johnson fight. And I swore off betting Michael Johnson fights a long time ago, just due to the fact that this guy is just so untrustworthy. He's a guy that can be winning the entire fight, and then it takes one mistake and he gets subbed, or he loses the decision, or he gets knocked out. I mean, this is a guy that has a lot of talent. It's just he can't really seem to put it together for an entire 15 minutes more often than not. And you can tell by the guy's record. What is he? Michael Johnson is 21-8. I mean, pretty terrible record there, but I think he's a lot better than that record does indicate. So, yeah, in theory, I feel like this is a matchup where Michael Johnson has honestly phenomenal takedown defense. He should be able to stuff the takedowns against Carlos Diego Ferreira, and he should be the better striker. It's just if Carlos Diego Ferreira gets this fight down to the mat like once, it could be over shortly after. Michael Johnson's been submitted, I think, like 10 times. I'm going to pick Michael Johnson just because I think it's actually a good matchup for him. We saw him stuff all the takedowns against Diakase his last time out. And like I said, he should be the better striker, but it's just, trusting Michael Johnson doesn't really seem like the best idea more often than not. Carlos Diego Ferreira, I really like this guy, but he's now 38 years old. So he's getting up there in age. And on top of that, he's on a 3-fight skid. And we've not seen him in about a year and a half as well. So some serious concerns on the Carlos Diego Ferreira side. I think Michael Johnson still has a little bit more left in the tank, whereas in Carlos Diego Ferreira, I'm not so sure he does. So, yeah, I'm picking Johnson Weezy. I thought about betting him, but I thought about how stupid that sounds because, he could be winning the entire fight and then probably loses in the 3rd round by sub. So, yeah, the pick's absolutely Michael Johnson, but trusting Michael Johnson is something I've stopped doing a long time ago, and my mental health has improved drastically since then.
Yeah, man. I remember that Thiago Moises fight for Johnson. He's just beating 7 shades of shit out of Moises. And then Moises rolls for a leg lock like 10 seconds into the 2nd round and it's over. You're like, I think Thiago landed 0 strikes in that fight, or maybe I'm not joking about that. It was like one significant strike. Find out what it is, because he was absolutely getting shit kicked. And then he wound up like just locking up a leg lock. And it was like, man, if that isn't a Michael Johnson fight in a nutshell, I don't know what it is. But I don't know what to do with this fight. I bet the over 2.5 here, Brady, because first of all, if you look at like the guys that are finishing Carlos Diego Ferreira, okay, Gillespie, Gamrot due to an injury. That was a very close fight up to that point. I bet Carlos Diego Ferreira there at like plus 155. And Gamrot was getting pieced up on the feet in that fight, and he had to keep going to the wrestling over and over again. And during one of the takedown defenses, Ferreira busted one of his ribs or pulled some cartilage in there, something where he got hurt, and then he couldn't go on. Gregor Gillespie put on one of the most incredible performances of pace, pressure, and cardio I've ever seen in that fight. And he almost died after he got the win from exhaustion. This guy Ferreira has fought just his last 3 fights are against Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, and Mateusz Gamrot. And for Michael Johnson, it's Mark Diakase, Jamie Mularkey, Alan Patrick, and the 53-year-old Clay Guida. So, I mean, Ferreira has been fighting the better level of competition here. He is the better submission grappler, but we can't count on him to wrestle, Brady. 6 takedowns in 13 UFC fights. That's putrid for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. But he does have good striking numbers. You look at both of these guys, they both are landing a lot more than they absorb at distance. And Carlos throws 7 more distance strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. And Michael throws about 3.5 more. So both of these guys are doing pretty well at distance, but it's Johnson who's a little more accurate and he's a little more defensively responsible. He's also got a little more power and a little bit less chinny in comparison to Diego Ferreira. So, and Johnson's got 80% takedown defense, and he's only been controlled for 13% of his UFC career. So I kind of feel like, if this is a striking match, I'm going to favor Michael Johnson here. But dude, I'm not betting this fight. A 38-year-old against a 36-year-old. Johnson's lost 3 of his last 5, and his wins are against Ducote and Alan Patrick. Ferreira's lost 3 of his last 5. Both of these guys are definitely nearing the end of their career. I mean, Michael Johnson is probably the best 21-18 fighter in all of mixed martial arts today, but I don't know what that means. So I'm staying away. But no, actually, I'm not. I've got the over 2.5 rounds at plus 120 here.
Yeah, I'm tempted on Michael Johnson, but at the same time, like, if I bet on Michael Johnson and he loses in Michael Johnson fashion, I mean, it'll hurt so bad. Like, I don't know. So he's plus 133 though, which is very interesting. You said you got the over at plus
120.
Looks like plus 130 right now.
It's been fluctuating back and forth between there and plus 120 and plus 130 on BetOnline and DraftKings.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I don't really like betting on Michael Johnson fights, so I'll probably pass, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit interested in that Johnson plus money, but we will see. All right, let's keep on moving on. A couple of more fights on the card. We have a good fight here. André Fialho going against Joaquin Buckley. We got Fialho, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. We got Buckley, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 76-inch reach. Same age there. Fialho, 2-inch height advantage, and then Buckley with a 2-inch reach advantage. André Fialho, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Michel Pereira. Knockout win against Baeza and Van Camp, and then knockout losses against Jake Matthews and Muslim Salikov. As far as Joaquin Buckley, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Antonio Arroyo, decision win against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, knockout win against Albert Duraev, decision loss against Nazardine Imavov, and then a knockout loss against Chris Curtis. So, yeah, striker versus striker matchup. I feel like both these guys are going to throw down. Both these guys have a ton of power. I question the durability of both guys. I really question the durability of Fialho, though. Like, Fialho is a guy that's getting wobbled in a lot of his fights. Getting starched by Jake Matthews was not a good look. Getting wobbled by Cameron Van Camp was not a good look. So yeah, I think the durability of Fialho is very, very bad. Whereas with Buckley, I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's that good either. And like I said, both guys have a ton of power as well. I think somebody's getting knocked out here, Weezy. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, fight to end by KO might be a really interesting look this week if you can get it better than like minus 200. Because both of these guys not only pretty much only finish by knockout, but they only get finished by knockout. Joaquin Buckley, 6 career losses. 4 of them are by knockout. Fialho, 6 career losses. 4 of them are by knockout. So 8 of these guys' 12 career losses are by knockout. Fialho has 1 career win by submission and then an 81% knockout rate. He's knocked out both of his UFC wins. Buckley's knocked out 4 of his 5 UFC wins, and he's knocked out 73% of his 15 opponents, as a professional. That's 11 of 15 wins by knockout. So both of these guys got a shit ton of power. Joaquin Buckley, 6 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights. André Fialho, 2 knockdowns in 5 UFC fights. Both of these guys have been knocked down, but guess what? Joaquin Buckley's been knocked down 4 times. So I worry about laying juice on Buckley here for a couple of reasons, Brady. He is chinny. He's been knocked out in 3 of his 4 UFC losses, and you don't get more durable when you cut weight. This is going to be Joaquin Buckley's first fight at welterweight. He's cutting down from 185 down to 170. Jordan Williams comes to mind. A guy at 185, a type A diabetic who was extremely durable, and then he cuts down to 170 and he's getting knocked out by everybody. That's why I wouldn't be willing to lay juice on Joaquin Buckley here, because if there's one thing that Fialho can do, it's walk forward and knock you out. The guy's got serious power. Joaquin Buckley might wrestle here. That could be an interesting wrinkle to this fight if he does do that, because if he does wrestle early here, Fialho's conditioning is not good. And if you make him grapple at all, you might have him completely spent 7.5, 8 minutes into the fight. So I think Buckley, while he's got a ton of power, just like Fialho does, he's got more ways to win this fight. So I understand why Buckley's the favorite here, but it's a striker versus striker matchup, so I kind of feel like you want to be careful about laying too much juice here. And right now, what do we got Buckley at?
Like
minus 235? No chance, dude. No chance. I'd be looking at, so you could get Fialho by knockout or inside the distance at plus 185, which is really good when you can get him at plus 200 on the money line, Brady. And by the way, I said that as a joke, but it's still there. Yeah. It's still at plus 185 for the inside the distance prop on Bet Online, the most ass prop award, while his money line is at plus 200. So if you could go to a site that doesn't have ass props, you might be able to get Fialho at like plus 300 by KO, plus 350 maybe. And that might be a decent way to play this one. If you can get a fat number on Fialho by KO, he's going to win this fight by knockout 3 out of 10 times, I would say, just from my capping. He's live here. But we'll see how this fight winds up playing out on Saturday. The weight cut bothers me for Buckley. We'll see how he looks on the scales. I think that's going to be some information you're going to want to have if you bet this fight, especially if you bet it heavy. But at plus 200 on the money line, at plus 300, 350 on the KO line for Fialho might be something I'm looking to sprinkle this week.
Yeah, the line kind of baffles me. I mean, I get it. Like Fialho, he's not that good, but what he's good at is he hits like a truck, and Buckley's been knocked out a lot of times. So in a fight where I think somebody's going to get knocked out, I mean, I would not lay minus 235 on Buckley. And somebody in the chat mentioned like Buckley has fought at 170 before, but that was so long ago. 2018 against Logan Storley was the last time he fought at 170. So like 5 years ago.
5 years.
Yeah. So
that's a 15-pound cut too. It's not a 10-pound cut. It's a 15-pound cut. It makes a difference.
Yep. So it definitely has been a while. I'd be looking at violence. Like you said, fight ends by knockout. The under 2.5 could be solid as well, but I don't know. Fialho inside the distance. Yeah, it's still there, Weezy. Plus 185.
Yeah, I mean, that's – can you imagine that? I mean, that is just such bad. And did they even open a total on that fight yet?
Yeah, they have it at 1.5 now.
Oh, they opened it, huh? Well, yeah. God bless them. I think that's the tops.
Under 1.5, like minus 105, and then over 1.5, minus 125.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't really have a good feeling about that one way or the other. I do love fight doesn't go to decision, fight ends by KO. I think that could potentially be a parlay piece this week, but yeah, it's a fun fight.
Yep, definitely a good fight. All right, Weezy, let's move on to the next fights. We have Emily Ducote going against Lupita Godinez, the woman that almost broke me a couple months back when I parlayed her up with Martin Budai. Had to be the worst parlay I've ever placed. But we got Ducote. She is 29 years old, 5'2", with a 63-inch reach. Godinez, 29 years old, 5'2", with a 61-inch reach. Godinez, same age there, same height. And then it's going to be Ducote with a 2-inch reach advantage. Ducote, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Made her debut against Jessica Penne, looked really good. Next fight against Angela Hill, she looked really bad. As far as Godinez, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Luana Karolina, a decision win against Loma Lukbunmi, a decision win against Ariana Carnelossi, a decision loss to Angela Hill, and then a split decision win against Cynthia Calvillo. The big question here, Weezy, is does Lupita Godinez wrestle? If she does, she wins this fight super easy. Like Ducote, I think her takedown defense actually looks solid. It's just when she gets taken down, she's kind of content to just lay on her back, throw up submissions, and that's probably not going to work here against Lupita. Lupita's wrestling, I think, is really good. I think she's really strong for the division. She can definitely wrestle. She can definitely get fights down to the mat. The problem with Lupita, her last couple fights, is she just refuses to wrestle. She refused to wrestle against Angela Hill, lost that fight. She refused to wrestle against Cynthia Calvillo, and I was borderline, like, barely paying attention. But a lot of people thought that Lupita potentially lost that fight against Cynthia Calvillo as a huge favorite in that fight. So if she goes out here and strikes with Ducote for 15 minutes, it's going to be a very, very close fight. But if she goes out there and wrestles, she wins easy. It's just I can never, ever, ever, ever trust Lupita Godinez ever again. I think she's fallen in love with her hands a little bit, and I think that's so dumb, man. Like, she should go out here and wrestle, but I just can't trust her to do it. So I'm not betting on this fight, and it's a fight I want nothing to do with. But what do you like in here, Weezy?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I get why Loopy's the favorite, right? Let's just say that this is a 15-minute boxing match. Loopy's not out of her depth. You know, I mean, I could see Loopy winning minutes and I could see Ducote winning minutes. But if Loopy chooses to wrestle, and we've seen Emily on the regional scene, well, not the regional scene, but in Bellator against really good fighters like Elimele McFarlane, you know, taking her down over and over again, you know, winning a ton of minutes on the ground there. So Loopy's got a path here to win minutes with the grappling, which is something we're not going to really see Emily do. She hasn't attempted any takedowns at the UFC level. She didn't even, you know, get any against Angela Hill, and that's somebody that you might want to try to take down, especially if you're getting pieced up the way that Ducote was in that fight. Emily Ducote and I share something in common, Brady. Do you know what that is?
What's that?
The birthday. Also a New Year's baby, born 20 years to the day after her Uncle Weezy, Emily Ducote, January 1st, 1994, a fellow New Year's baby. Look, she's going to have to keep this fight standing, because if she does, she's not going to be out of her depth at all. But if Loopy makes her wrestle, she could look what the line says she's going to look right now. But if she doesn't, you know, I think that the plus money on Ducote is good. We know that Loopy's taking this fight on short notice. This was supposed to be Polyana Viana that she was fighting. So, you know, I get the plus money crowd on Ducote here because she's been training for longer for this fight. She should be a really good striker here. Definitely not out of her depth with Loopy on the feet. And she's shown 100% takedown defense at the UFC level thus far. So that there's something to be said for that. But this is a fight that I don't think my money's going to be getting anywhere near. I think that this definitely goes over, definitely probably goes to decision, but it's juice to the tits. So I don't really see a way to play this. Do you?
No, unless I hit up Loopy, I'm like, hey, are you going to wrestle? And then got like confirmation. Like, if I knew she was going to wrestle, I'd probably bet her, man. Like at -150, like I would probably bet her if I knew for a fact she was going to wrestle, but I don't know, and I have a feeling she might not wrestle. And if she doesn't, it's probably gonna look like a pick'em. So yeah, it's a pass. I'm never ever betting on a Lupita Godinez fight again. It was what was it? It was Loopy versus Angela Hill. I came on to Stat Diggers the next day, and I had to have talked for like 10 minutes about the fight. Like it broke me, but at the same time, I learned a huge valuable lesson. Don't parlay up WMMA, and I haven't till this day, Weezy. I think I played Loma Luke Bumi this year, and that's it. It's in terms of WMMA chalk.
I just laid juice on women's MMA, had a nightmare about it, and then the next day my bet was canceled. So I was like, maybe that's a good thing, but I laid serious juice on Myra Bueno Silva against Maheshate. I thought she was going to absolutely destroy her. Put 3.8 units on her at -190. But yeah, the very next day that bet was canceled. And I was like, all right, so now I can still say that I haven't laid juice on women's MMA this year. So that's good.
Yeah, Mushroom in the chat saying it right there. Ludicrous. Just ludicrous. And I still think I have the banners till this day. Let me see if I can, because I don't think I deleted them. I gotta still have them in here. It's probably all the way down here. I don't think I have them anymore. Dang it.
Oh, damn. You know, sometimes they only let you save like 10 of those banners or whatever.
I have this one.
Jay Ellis. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, he's been on a bit of a losing streak lately, but you know, if He beat Gerald Meerschaert. That is going to be an albatross that poor GM3 wears around his neck for his entire career, is that he actually was one of the losses to JLS.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got this one. This is for the Macy Chiazon fight. Oh, there we go. Oh, I found it. There it is. Insane, absurd, silly, ludicrous, ridiculous. All synonyms for loopy. I got a happy Hunsucker fight week. I got happy Halloween for some reason. That's weird.
You probably put that one there on Halloween.
I guess so. Breaking news. Dan Hooker is not a bum.
Yes, he is definitely not.
Get some help, Claudio Poyas. Get some PSA, get some help, Keith Peterson. What else we got here?
Oh, brilliant.
Ash shaving of the week for some reason. Oh my, loser has to rewatch Felice Herrig, Karolina Kowalkiewicz for 24 hours straight.
Oh boy, dude. And I think we also did that with the Carla Esparza Rose Namajunas 2 fight.
Oh my. Loser has to come on stream with a Douglas Silva de Andrade rat tail.
We could just with that Phil Foss blonde. We got great pickers on this show. It's Pub Sports Radio, the best in the business, Brady.
Absolutely. Get some help, JLS. All right, we'll move on. We have 2 fights left, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one because I believe you're Anthony Hernandez is #1 fan, right?
I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Fluffy Hernandez.
Heck
the
yeah.
way that he fights, everything about this kid is something that I really love to watch.
Can't wait to talk about it. I'm starting to like him too, man. This guy's fun to watch. We got Edmen Shahbazyan going against Anthony Hernandez. We got Shahbazyan, 25 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Hernandez, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. Hernandez is 4 years older, 2-inch height disadvantage, and a 1-inch reach advantage. Edmen, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Brad Tavares, a knockout loss against Derek Brunson, decision loss against Jack Hermanson, knockout loss against Nazardine Imavov, and then a knockout win against Dolce Longimbula. As far as Anthony Hernandez, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Jung Young Park, knockout loss against Kevin Holland, submission win against Rodolfo Vieira, decision win against Josh Fremd, and then a submission win against Marc-Andre Barrio. I think that Marc-Andre Barrio win for Fluffy really opened my eyes because, you were starting to see it, right? You were starting to see it in the Rodolfo Vieira fight. You were starting to see it in the Josh Fremd fight. But that Marc-Andre Barrio fight really opened my eyes in terms of Fluffy Hernandez because Marc-Andre Barrio is a guy that he uses his cardio, his pressure, his pace, his volume, and he breaks people. But it was actually Fluffy that went out there and broke Marc-Andre Barrio. I mean, who goes out there and breaks Marc-Andre Barrio outside of Chidi and Joaquin, who did it in 16 seconds? But that performance really, really impressed me there. Fluffy is a very exciting fighter. He's going to come forward. He's going to take you down multiple times. He's going to put it on you. He's going to wear you out. He's going to try to finish you the entire fight, and he's going to try to break you. Uses that cardio pressure pace as a weapon. And like on paper, it just feels like a really, really, really bad matchup for Shahbazyan, who outside of the first round just really slows down. We saw Derek Brunson break the guy. We saw Jack Hermanson break the guy. We saw Nazardine Imavov break the guy. So I think it's kind of Bootsy likes Edmen, but I think it's kind of Edmen first round or bust here. If this fight leaves the first round, I don't think Edmen's going to have much left. I think Hernandez is going to put it on him early, which Hernandez is probably going to leave himself open to get hit. But if he's able to survive those first couple minutes, I think he starts to really put it on Edmen and break him. But I will say, I think Edmen is going to be live for the first couple minutes to land a big shot. I think Edmen has a ton of power, but I think he has only a couple minutes to do it. So I think this is a really good live betting spot if this does reach the second round. And I'm going to be looking at Fluffy Hernandez round 2 and round 3 sprinkles on any book not named Bet Online. And then I'm also going to be looking at Edmen by first round knockout on any book not named Bet Online as well. So I think there's a lot of good ways to play this, Weezy, but I like Fluffy, but money's pouring in on Edmen. Money is pouring in on Edmen Shahbazyan. Fluffy Hernandez opened up a massive favorite. He is currently only minus 225 as we speak. So lots of love for Edmen. I think it's a pretty bad matchup for Edmen, but I will say I think he's going to have a couple opportunities, at least early on. So if I was to bet Edmen, it probably would be that first round knockout prop. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight? My favorite fight on the card.
Yeah, I looked at that first round prop too on Bet Online, and I was like, dude, if Shahbazyan is open at plus 240, I mean, first round knockout should be something crazy. Plus 800. I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? So, I mean, this is a nightmare matchup for Shahbazyan, okay? But he's getting better and he's still young, Brady. So, I mean, he's finally in a place now over at Extreme Couture where he's training in a real gym with a real coach. So, and we already saw him training with Edmen Tarverdyan and winning fights at the UFC level. He beat, Brad Tavares with Edmen Tarverdyan in his corner. So we have to keep in mind that Edmen is still only 25 years old and that he could be making massive improvements in the time away from the cage that we saw between the Imavov and the Dalcha fights for him. But Edmen's 4 years younger, Brady, 2 inches taller than Hernandez. He's got a very slight experience advantage, mostly at the UFC level, where he has 2 more fights and 14 more minutes in the octagon. He should be the more dangerous striker while this fight is on the feet, but probably not by much, actually. He's got 3 UFC knockdowns, and he's landing a knockdown on 2.16% of the distance strikes that he lands, and he has 3 UFC wins by knockout. He's not as high volume as Anthony, but he has the power, the distance striking differential advantage at his is positive 0.4, Hernandez is negative 1.14, and the distance defense advantage at 58.7% to 52.3%. And he's fought the more experienced UFC competition in comparison to Anthony. But now Hernandez's cardio and durability are both legendary, so that makes him a difficult opponent for anyone to handle. He's throwing 16 distance strike attempts per minute spent at distance, and he lands 6.58 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he spends 72% of his UFC cage time in control time positions, and he's winning 72% of those positions. He's going to be the better wrestler and grappler here, and he goes to it constantly. And he has the cardio to push that grappling heavy pace for the full 15 minutes. Anthony has the better UFC wins in comparison to Edmen. So this is a tough matchup for Edmen Shahbazyan. We've seen Edmen do his worst work when his opponents wrestle successfully, and we've also seen him wilt late in fights, and that's a horrible look when you're about to fight Anthony Hernandez. The 2 times Anthony was finished in the UFC were due to body shots, but he has an absolute brick for a head. Edmen needs to land a body shot in order to hurt Hernandez, and that is possible because Edmen has got great boxing and he does great body work. The longer this fight goes, the better chance Anthony's going to have due to the pace that he pushes, especially with the wrestling and the grappling. I'm picking Hernandez to get the win here. I love his conditioning. I love his durability. I love his pace. I love his grappling. And I think he does his best work where we've seen Edmen get served. But Edmen's still only 25, Brady. He's finally at a real camp with a real coach. He's over at Extreme Couture. He's been working on his wrestling and conditioning. So I think we can see a much improved version of Edmen here. And I think that the conditioning has gotten better. I think that the wrestling has gotten better. It's just, the question is, even if your wrestling defense is good, it's much easier to defend the first 5 takedowns than it is the second 5. And it's easier to defend the second 5 than it is the third 5. And the problem with a guy like Hernandez, Brady, is that he can keep coming. He can keep shooting takedowns. He's pressuring you on the feet. He's throwing more volume. He's walking you down. And as soon as your ass hits that cage, he shoots in on a double leg. And then he lets you back up. And then he shoots in on another double leg. And he gets you back down. And then he lands shots. And he lets you stand back up. And then he takes you back down. Dude, if your conditioning is not ready for this kid, you are going to run into a dick saw. And I tend to think that that's what's going to happen to Edmen here.
Yep, I tend to think so as well. By the way, Shahbazyan in round 1 now plus 450. Let's go. Plus 450 for round 1.
For a guy who is plus what on the money line?
Like plus 190-ish.
So at plus 190, they're telling you that he's got a 35% chance to win the fight. And at plus, what did you say his first round prop was?
450.
So they're telling you about a 23% chance that he wins it by knockout when he's only got a 35% chance of winning the fight. So they're basically bet online, besides telling you to go fuck yourself with that line, is also telling you that about 70% of Edmen Shahbazyan's win condition is in round 1, which is bullshit.
Yeah. So that sucks. So hopefully we get some better odds on some other books, but there are definitely some interest I have in some props for this fight for sure. Yeah. All right, Weezy, we got one more fight, and it is the main event. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us on a Tuesday. Over 100 of you in here with us on a Tuesday. That's nice to see. If you guys have not already, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to Pub Sports Radio. Week off next week, but we will be back after that, and we have like a lot of fights in a row. I think I saw how much fights in a row? Was it like 12 in a row for after this break, Weezy? It's something crazy, I think.
Yeah, we're going to be working through the entire summer, Brady, so get ready to cap a bunch of fights, because that's what we do, and it's what we do best. So yeah, the UFC stays busy over the summer because that's where there's the least competition.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a lot of cards coming up. All right. Main event, we got Mackenzie Dern going against Angela Hill. We got Mackenzie Dern, 30 years old, 5'4" with a 63-inch reach. Angela Hill, 38 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. We got Dern, 8 years younger. Dern with a 1-inch height advantage, 1-inch reach disadvantage. Mackenzie Dern, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision win against Verna Jandiroba, submission win against Nina Nunez, decision loss against Marina Rodriguez, decision win against Tisha Torres, and then a decision loss against Yan Xiaonan. As far as Angela Hill, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Decision losses to Torres, Lemos, and Jandiroba, and then decision wins against Godinez and Emily Ducote. So yeah, this fight was supposed to happen on the UFC Charlotte card. Kind of wanted to see it, but 5 rounds of this fight. I believe I was picking Dern in the last breakdown I did. I'm going to stick with my Dern pick. 5 rounds doesn't really change anything for me other than the fact that she's going to have just an extra 2 rounds to potentially get this fight down to the mat. So I'm going to pick Dern. It's just I don't really like the price tag on her, though. I could definitely make a case for Hill stuffing the takedowns, being the better striker. Just I think at some point Dern is going to get the takedown. And once she does get the takedown, I think it's probably a wrap. So I like Dern, but as far as a pick, but I don't see myself laying like minus 180 or whatever she is on her. Weezy, what do you like for this main event here?
I'm looking for the last time that Angela Hill was submitted, and it was by Randa Marcos back in 2019. So not actually that long ago. About 4 years ago, she got submitted by Randa Marcos. And then prior to that, it was a rear naked choke in round 1 from Rose Namajunas back in 2015. We just saw Hill go 3 rounds with Virna Jandiroba and not get submitted. And I think that is about as good of a accomplishment that you can have that would lead somebody to say, I think that she's live to win in this fight, because Virna is actually a better wrestler than what Mackenzie is. And this is as clear as it gets, Brady. If this is a 25-minute striking match, Angela Hill is minus 300. If this fight goes to the ground, Mackenzie Dern is minus 1,000. But we know we've got a lot of data to look at here. Mackenzie Dern has 10 UFC fights and 5 takedowns. That's bad. You don't need a statistician from the Harvard of the Midwest, Northern Illinois University, go Huskies, to tell you that, right? That's a bad percentage. 11.36 takedown percentage is bad. And Angela Hill's got 77% takedown defense. She's only been controlled for 16% of her UFC career on the ground. So that's, 1 out of 6 seconds. We've seen her Virna was close on a leg lock with Angela there. She was wincing. She would look like she was in a little bit of pain. I wouldn't be surprised if Virna actually messed up her leg on that attempt a little bit. So this is a really hard one to call. 5 rounds for Mackenzie to find that position where she gets a dominant position and gets a submission. That's a lot to ask. I think I'd like Angela Hill a lot more if this were a 3-round fight, but giving Mackenzie 25 minutes instead of 15 to find that submission makes it a little more difficult to bet that Angela Hill side. But one of the last thing that I did before we went live, Brady, was I watched Angela Hill versus Emily Ducote. If you're not on Angela Hill's level of striking and it stays at distance, you're going to get picked apart. And that's what's going to happen to Mackenzie Dern here. Dern is going to have to pressure relentlessly. She's probably going to have to eat a lot of punches with her face. And I think that she's probably going to have to pull guard once or twice here. And then once you pull guard, no big deal. You can try to get that sweep. You can go for a leg lock and try to get on top. There's a lot of different ways that Mackenzie can be effective without getting a takedown here. She could take the back standing. She could pull guard. Any one of those ways to do it would be a way that she could find her best win condition here. But, we're going to have to find out if Angela's going to be able to keep this standing. We know that Angela Hill has faced a ton of takedown attempts. Find me people in the UFC who have faced 100 takedown attempts or more. You're probably only going to be able to count it on one hand, and one of those people is Angela Hill. And Mackenzie Dern has attempted 44 takedowns and only gotten 5. So I'm going to go with Angela Hill here. She's the much better striker. She knows what Mackenzie Dern has to do in order to win this fight, and it's not striking. So it's not like it's going to be a surprise to Angela Hill what Mackenzie Dern's game plan is going to be here. So I'm going with Angela Hill to win by decision.
Yep, makes sense. I used to always pick against Dern, and it used to always bite me. Nowadays, I'm starting to pick her, and now she's starting to lose. So I'm picking her here, so she probably does lose. But one spot I was looking at was the Dern finish only. You'll never guess.
It's terrible. It was one of the lines I'm like, I'm going to look at this because, it's just so much more likely that Mackenzie finds a submission than Angela finds a knockout. What's the line, Brady?
-600.
-600. So in implied probability, that's exactly go fuck yourself.
Yes. So I was looking at that. And then like Dern inside the distance is +125. So
Horrible.
yeah, I mean, if the sub prop's playable on like FanDuel or DraftKings, I'm probably gonna take a shot if it's like +200, but doesn't look playable at the time of this show. So we'll see. I think this Angela Hill decision only could be very solid if they mess that one up. Just because if this fight does go to decision, it probably means that Angela Hill was able to stuff the takedown. She was able to outstrike Dern. I don't think the striking is close, so I'll be looking at that. But as of now, no interest in betting this fight. And it would be a dog or pass from a money line perspective. You don't want to lay chalk on somebody who probably does have to pull guard to win this fight. So dog or pass from a money line perspective, but I'll pick Dern to get the sub in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Angela Hill to win by decision, and I think you can find that on Bet Online for worse than the money line right now.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's bad. It's bad. If Hill's +147, I'll bet it's like +170 to win by decision. Let's see what they got. Hill by point. Wow, +215. That's actually that's horrible, but it's not Bet Online horrible.
It opened up +190, so it actually got better.
So they probably got no action, and they're like, all right, well, let's try bumping it up to +215. Still horrible.
Oh,
and then while we're at it, let's fucking cancel Brady and Weezy's KO props on Maheshate because they actually got a good price. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean the one playable prop.
The one playable prop, and then they cancel it. They don't even tell you that they cancel it. No email other than just, hey, go fuck yourself. We know we posted this line, but we're not going to honor it.
Yeah, so I like Bet Online for their early openers, Weezy. Like they open up the props very early, but they opened them when I was driving. Like I was driving from Charlotte to Myrtle Beach, and I'm driving, and I checked the props while driving, and they've opened like 30 minutes ago, and at that point they're already completely smashed, and the line's already gone at that point. So I'm pissed off on my ride to Myrtle Beach there. I missed a plus money on something, but So that sucked. So I don't know. Get some help at online.
Yeah, get some help.
Some
And
help.
happy anniversary, Brady, by the
Thanks,
way.
man.
That's fantastic.
It's a very, very eventful anniversary in Myrtle. We went and did a lot of stuff. It was a good time.
Awesome.
Relaxing. Heck yeah.
Awesome. Gonna be better than this card, probably. But if we find some ways to fucking make some money on this, it'll be a good one too.
Oh, let's try. I have one quarter unit bet now. So yeah,
I've
I'm a
got 3 units, Brady. I'm like absolutely
Woo!
dusting you out there.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely putting the whole damn bankroll on this one. I've got the over 2.5 for Johnson versus Ferreira, the over 2.5 for Nascimento, Latifi, and I've got 1 unit on the Chase Hooper money line. Ja, help me.
Let's go. So yeah, I'm a quarter unit deep, but we'll see. I'm gonna wait for other books to get props out, and then I'm gonna see what I can get into. But Weezy, any final thoughts on the card? Any final thoughts on anything in general?
No, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this break week, Brady. We've been busting ass. Like, I think 15 out of the last 16 weeks, we've had UFC cards. So we've been, as content creators, really grinding it out. Looking forward to the week off. I'm going to be upgrading my Patreon, providing access to a lot more analytics and statistics on there. But looking to just, make a unit or two on this card, move on, and keep the winning streak going here.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, probably gonna be a late card for me, but there is some spots that do stick out. But we'll see what happens. Fender in the chat saying, "Weezy, you going live for just the tip tonight?" I think you said you might go like tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to do it tomorrow just so I don't have to talk for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
My voice has only got so much. So, yeah, but I'll be looking to go live either tomorrow afternoon or maybe later on tomorrow night. But I'll send it out on Twitter when everybody when I'm ready to go live.
Perfect. All right, guys. Yep. I posted my prediction video already, so that's out. I'll be going live on Friday for final thoughts, and then probably do a best bet show as well. And then the week off is going to be nice. Breaking down fights like Mandy Bum versus Jian Kim. They really take a toll on your mental health, on your soul. It hurts your soul quite a bit. So we need a week to recover, and then we get right back at it. It's like a 12-week stretch, maybe even more than 12 weeks. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, and if they don't cut Mandy Bohm, I'm probably quitting 6 weeks into this stretch, and then just like I'll have like a candlelight vigil here, and I'll just like go live for just the tip every Tuesday and go, I'm not breaking down any of these fights until you fuckers cut Mandy Bohm, and then I'll just sit there like praying. It's I don't know, man. Brady, we got to cut Mandy Bohm. How did hashtag cut Mandy Bohm? Please.
I'm surprised. Like, who does she even fight at this point?
I mean, if Victoria Leonardo beats you, and then you go out there and have to fake an injury to get a split decision win over a woman who goes out there wearing knee sleeves like Cowboy Bob Orton, I don't know what she's doing here. Hashtag cut Mandy Bohm. Let's do it. They got to stop fucking beating around the bush here. Just cut her. And look at Mushroom. Look at our guy putting those twos in the chat. He knows where it's at. He knows that this
Mushroom knows.
She's got to be cut, Brady.
Yeah, get some help, Mandy Bum. All right, Weezy. Well, we did it. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We'll be back in 2 Sundays breaking down the next card. Best of luck. Be safe. Be careful on this card. Kind of sketchy card, but it should be a fun one. I think we'll see some violence, and that's all we can really ask for on a Saturday. Talk to you guys later. See you.